Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you're all very well. I wasn't going to share my story, and after so many people have prompted me to do so and asked me to share my story, I'll be sharing it here with you today. On Thursday, my apologies, I still get a little bit emotional telling the story. So on Thursday, the 7th of March, I had an event to attend, and I was leaving Woodbank to Pretoria. This happened at about 8:30 in the morning. I was traveling from Woodbank to Pretoria, as I said, and doing business on my phone as usual. My phone was on my lap, I was on a call, and I'd noticed a white Audi in the yellow line. It was an unmarked vehicle. It did have blue lights in the inside of the vehicle. I took no note of it, but I did notice the car. I was driving in the fast lane. The car came up behind me and started pushing me and put its white lights on. So I thought perhaps I had to get out of the way. So I got into the slow lane on the left-hand side. The car then came behind me on the left-hand side. When this happened, I thought perhaps he was waiting for another vehicle to come by. Then I moved over to the right-hand side again to see if this guy was following me. He moved over to the right-hand side, and then he started pushing me. And I was concerned. Immediately, I started phoning my husband and telling my husband what was happening. I moved over to the left-hand side again, where he came up next to me, and it was 3 gentlemen, or 4, I'm still not sure, dressed in police clothing. With this being said, I've heard about so many stories. I have in fact had a similar story before, but it wasn't half as frightening as what happened this morning. And they started pushing me off the road. I was eventually had one tire over the left lane, and I was still in the slow lane. I was speaking to my husband. My husband just said to me, just keep calm, and I promise you all I was doing was praying. And ahead of me, I saw traffic officers that had already pulled somebody over. So I thought if there's any place that I'm going to stop, it would be there. And with them being dressed in police uniform, I assumed they would also be armed. I pulled over to a complete shock. I pulled over. They came out, they started getting out the vehicle, and I knew exactly what was happening. I knew it was a hijacking. I immediately was praying, and as I turned around, I saw the traffic officer get back into the traffic cop vehicle and drive away, look at me and look at the police. So they had communicated with each other already, and they carried on driving and left me there with this unmarked vehicle and these 3 or 4 traffic officers. Why I say 3 or 4? Because eventually I had 3 at my window. But I parked in such a manner that my tire was still almost in the traffic lane, so nobody could stand at my window. As this was happening, all I remember is I was just praying the whole time, and I said, Lord, not today. Funny enough, I said to my husband, and I've said to many friends, that morning I prayed so much more, and thanking the Lord for our protection and over my family and everyone, and it was so strange. I had to open the window, and the guy was hung over in my car. None of them had badges on, and he was armed. And I just looked at him, and I'm normally a very cool and collected person. I don't normally freak out, and I was hysterical. I said, my husband is on the line. They could hear he was on speakerphone. I said, I don't stop because one of our friends have been hijacked by police before and was found days later. And he said, well, this is why we're pulling you off. And then I completely just went ice cold. And he just looked at me. And whilst I was trying to get my breath, the second police officer came and he said, where's your license? In saying that I was trying to get my license, I started shaking so much. It was cards that were strewn all over the car. And I just looked, and I just begged, and I said, please don't, please don't. And they just looked at me. And nobody tried to console me. Remembering nobody had badges on, and I had known what was going on. And he kept on looking in the back of my vehicle, and I don't know what he was looking at. And I said, I haven't done anything wrong. Why are you stopping me? Now we know why he was stopping me. I was hysterical. Now, I remember from listening to so many stories, being a part of gender-based violence, being a part of this platform that I'm on, I hear so many stories, and they always say, try and create a bond with your offender. And I had reached out my hand, hoping that he would just stretch out his hand and, say, calm down or something. And I said, I'm so sorry, please just let me go. And I pleaded and I pleaded. I'm sorry. With that, they could hear my husband was still on the line. And he just looked at me, and the third policeman came to the window, and he looked at me, and he saw I was hysterical. And he looked at me and he said, just go. And I looked at him, and the first policeman looked at him as if to say, why are you letting her go? And he looked at me again and he said, just go. And that's when I just put my foot down and I drove away. Now, the reason why I'm sharing this story is because I'm always that type of person that would get a registration. I'm always that type of person that is very vigilant. And I've always thought something like this couldn't happen to me. Why I say that similar things happened to me. I was on the phone. Also, guys drove past me and they were driving like idiots, but I hadn't realized what they were doing. And I just looked at them and I was like, what are you doing? And with that, they obviously realized they weren't going to get my attention. And that was the first episode. That was a few years ago, but this happened now on Thursday morning. What scares me is that I was going to take my daughter with me, my little girl, because she was feeling poorly that day. It's been very difficult to talk about it. Somebody gave me very good advice, and they said, keep on rehearsing the days for your head where you felt safe, and that's where you stop. My message to all of you is please be careful. And in a case like that, try and get away where you can. Signal to them that you're going to the next police station or something. Download platforms on your phone like IER that you can press, and it's an immediate panic button. Trigger, I'm involved with Trigger. Trigger's amazing, and for some or other reason I didn't have my Trigger with me, and I wish I did. So many things could have gone wrong and they weren't, and it's by the grace of God that they didn't. I think I must have just been a liability for them at the end of the day, because they probably looked at me and thought, we can't do anything with her, she's too hysterical. And her husband's on the phone, and my husband knew exactly where I was. He was tracking me. And I phoned my security company as well, and he said, you escaped death, because this apparently happens on a daily basis and it's never reported. So please be wary. It was on the N4. It was 20 kilometers just before Bronkhorstspruit. And yesterday I was driving in the opposite direction again, and I think I saw about 5 Audis. And it was pure adrenaline. Just I was in such a state of hyper concentration, just trying to drive home and get home safely. Obviously my father as well is like, you're never driving alone again. And what do we do in this day and age that we're in South Africa? Do we become a statistic? We need to become proactive. And I would urge you, I'm definitely sharing my story with Trigger as well. Trigger's, I'm one of their ambassadors. Something needs to get done. Ladies, be vigilant. I was vigilant. I don't know. But, yeah, I think it was just by the grace of God that I can tell my story today. And thank you very much for listening. Please share this video. Please, I beg you.